3 spine-chilling true stories of haunted home alone nights exposed unexplained terror awaiting. Lisa looked back at her daughters, snuggled under blankets on the couch, as she stepped out the door. Tonight was different. Tonight, for the first time, she was leaving 6-year-old Mia and 8-year-old Chloe alone in their small Omaha home while she took her grueling night shift at the diner. They were used to the shadows of their cozy abode, but this night would awaken something ancient and restless. As Lisa drove away, a chill crept over her, hinting at the unease that would soon claw at the edges of her sanity. Back at home, a soft murmur filled the air, swirling around Mia and Chloe as they settled in to watch animated movies. The cheerful tunes turned insidious, slipping into whispers that echoed just beyond the walls. At first, Lisa dismissed it, tons of creaks and groans coming from the old house. But when a sudden clatter of toys reverberated through the silence, she froze, horror leaking into her heart. Then, her phone pinged, displaying a text from Mia. "Mom, are you okay?" The anxious weight of their separation fell heavy on Lisa's chest. They were not meant to be alone in the dark at the diner. Her head spun with orders, customers blurring into the background. The silence on the other end of the line was crushing as Lisa called home. Only static answered. Desperation clawed at her. She reached out to Mr. Jenkins, their neighbor, a man she'd trusted. Minutes later, he stood at the doorstep, his presence initially assuring. But there was something unsettling about his gaze as it strayed towards the girls, a flicker of something dark that caged her heart with dread. Meanwhile, in the backyard, Mia and Chloe were oblivious, launching into a game of hide-and-seek. They stumbled upon an old shed swallowed by weeds, the door hanging loosely on its hinges. Heart racing, they peeked inside. It smelled musty, filled with dust and shadows. They found a trunk caked with grime, remnants of toys that spoke of laughter long faded. But as Chloe's fingers brushed a cold metal object, dread wrapped around Lisa like a vice, and a tragic memory exploded in her mind, an old neighborhood tragedy that spoke of a different kind of terror. The ground beneath the house trembled. The air turned thick with foreboding, as if the domicile itself was alive, begging them to run. As Lisa stood with Mr. Jenkins, a chilling realization struck her. Maybe the danger lay close, nestled within familiar confines. The whispers swirled outside, unraveling fragments of a sinister tale all too well known from her childhood, a story told in hushed tones. Warning against trusting strangers. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the clock hit midnight, the whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices sending icy terror straight into Lisa's bones. Mia and Chloe giggled, unaware as they ventured deeper into the mystery of the shed. Lisa's unease morphed into sheer panic. She knew she had to protect her daughters from whatever watched from the shadows. A chill brushed the back of her neck as she glanced at Mr. Jenkins, whose lips curled into a sinister smile. A story she'd blocked out now surged back, an oppressive nightmare. They had to get out, or they may never see the light of dawn. Yet no one moved. The atmosphere thickened around them. Darkness seeped into every crevice of the home, transforming it from comforting to claustrophobic. It was only a matter of time before the old folktale became a reality. Fear clawed at her throat as it dawned on her. The danger might be closer than she ever imagined. The shadows inside the house deepened, creeping along the walls like a dark tide. Lisa's heart raced as she found herself caught between the unsettling presence of Mr. Jenkins and the unsettling idea of her daughters navigating the house without her. Time slipped through her fingers, each tick of the clock a reminder that she was powerless, miles away from the only thing that mattered. As she held her phone, desperate to hear their voices, the static buzz turned into something else, a faint whisper that seemed to call her name. Lisa, it hung in the air with chilling familiarity. She spun around, searching Mr. Jenkins' face for the assurance it once held. But there was only a predatory glint in his eyes, deepening the pit of her stomach. He took a step closer, the darkness creeping behind him, encircling them both. "Your daughters, Lisa. They're fine," he said, his voice smooth but edged with something menacing. "Children have a way of engaging with the dark. It makes them brave." Every maternal instinct in her screamed to flee. She had heard those tales, the ones whispered in the dark, about how some children made deals with the entities lurking in the shadows. The fear from her childhood spilled into vivid reality. She forced herself to think of Mia and Chloe, dancing with giggles, ticking clocks chiming in the distance, unaware of the horror lurking so close. "Stay back, Mr. Jenkins," she managed, her voice shaky but resolute. He only smiled, malice twisting his features. Meanwhile, deep within the confines of the shed, Mia and Chloe discovered more than just old toys. The cold metal object Chloe had touched was a locket, tarnished and crusted with dirt. Yet somehow, it radiated a sense of familiarity. They unlatched it to reveal a jagged piece of glass with vague images etched into its surface. As they gathered closer to investigate, the whispers grew more distinct, shivers of laughter, hushed secrets, beckoning them to come closer and listen. "Chloe, it's scary here," Mia whimpered, gripping her sister's hand as unease settled in her small chest. Chloe, fueled by curiosity, pressed on. "We have to see what it wants. Maybe it will tell us a story." The darkness around them thickened, eager to envelop them in its cold embrace. Shadows flickered, dancing at the corners of their vision, morphing into shapes that made Mia's heart pound. They heard it then, the soft rustle of something shifting in the depths of the shed. A low growl resonated, loud enough to rattle the walls. "Maybe we should just go back," Mia gasped, her breath hitching in her throat. "Just a little longer," Chloe replied, determination driving her toward the source. But in that moment, the door slammed shut with a deafening crack, leaving the girls in a suffocating silence saturated with dread. Panic erupted within Mia. "Chloe, we have to get out." Back at the diner, Lisa's senses on high alert, she felt a violent chill sweep through the air. Something had shifted. The familiarity that once anchored her to Mr. Jenkins became terrifyingly suffocating. The prickling at the back of her neck flared again, warning her daughters were no longer safe within the walls of their home. Another call, desperate this time, filled her lungs. She had to get back and fast. Just as she turned to flee, Mr. Jenkins grabbed her wrist. "You really don't want to go in there," his voice dripped with foreboding. As she pried herself free, the locket emitted a faint glow from the unseen depths of the shed. Lisa's heart pounded, fear tugging at her as she sprinted back. No one was safe now. The walls pulsed, the whispers coiled tighter, and the moment of truth loomed. Would she make it in time, or would the darkness finally take what it had always coveted? As she raced back home, she wondered what would the shadows reveal. The moment Lisa burst through the front door, the world shifted into a nightmarish tableau. Darkness loomed everywhere, thick like smoke, clinging to the walls and swirling around her ankles. She lunged forward, heart pounding, ears straining for any sound of her daughters. "Mia, Chloe." Her voice ripped through the silence, but only echoes responded. Down the hallway, shadows flickered and curled. Felt as if they were alive, eyes watching, waiting. The very air around her felt heavy, charged with malicious intent. She stumbled forward, nearly losing her footing. Every step was a battle against the suffocating dread trying to pull her back in the shed. Panic gripped Mia and Chloe. Chloe's eyes darted around the dim interior, face pale as the shadows crept closer. Everything felt wrong. "Mia, we need to find a way out." She tugged at the locked door, but it didn't budge. "Stay calm," Mia pleaded, her voice shaky. "What do we do?" Just then, the rustling returned, louder and more aggressive. A deep growling noise reverberated from the corners of the shed, making her freeze. Back inside the house, Lisa rushed toward the front room. Something shifted in her peripheral vision, a fleeting shadow darted by the staircase. She turned, heart hammering in her chest, desperate to reconcile the sight. Her mind screamed that there was something else in the house, something beyond despair and darkness. Lisa glanced back down the hallway where Mr. Jenkins had stood. But he was gone. The din of whispers had begun again. It felt like the walls were closing in on her. Get out! Get out! A voice hissed repeatedly, more frantic now. Mia! Chloe! She cried out again, this time with a depth of fear that ripped from the heart. Was she too late? A flicker of light caught her attention. The shed. The glow from that locket. She needed to find it. She needed to understand what it meant. As she sprinted toward the back door, panicked breaths filled her chest. The whispering in the house became a cacophony of plotting voices. Lisa felt them clamoring for her attention. Taunting her, out in the yard. The night air chilled her bones. Powerful shadows encroached, reaching out as she approached the shed. She barely had time to brace herself before the door flew open with a thunderous crash, revealing a black hole of silence inside. Mia! Chloe! She shouted again, stepping closer. But the faint glow was gone. Instead, she was enveloped in a moment of unbearable quiet. Inside the shed, a cold presence loomed. Mia and Chloe huddled together in a corner, eyes wide with terror, fear visible on their trembling faces. The entity, whatever it was, swelled around them like a storm. Mama! Chloe cried out, her voice cracking. Lisa's heart shattered at the sound. She lunged for them, but just as she reached out, the shadows lashed out. Gnarled hands emerged from the darkness, icy fingers brushing against her skin, pulling her toward the abyss. No! She screamed, grabbing the door frame, pulling with every ounce of strength she had left, fighting against the unseen entity. A thunderous crack thundered through the space, shaking the very foundation. The darkness twisted and warped, warping reality around her. Mia! Chloe! The girls' terrified faces dwindled as the shadows swallowed them. Everything fell silent, the world around her dimming into an unsettling stillness. Lisa's breaths grew shallow, panic clawing at her throat as the grasp of darkness tightened. And then, as if the shadows couldn't contain themselves, a shriek broke free from the depths. Her daughters were lost, and so was she. Moments stretched into eternity. Alone in the void, Lisa could only wonder about the price of the darkness, and the deals that lurked behind every whispered secret. Fear surged anew, fierce as she felt the tightening of shadows around her. This can't be the end. I won't let it be. But the pressure mounted. She needed to fight, to reclaim her daughters from the clutches of this nightmare. Was there a way to hope? Could she uncover a path through the shadows that seemed intent on their destruction? All she could hear was the ominous laughter echoing in the dark. What terrible revelation awaited them as the darkness pressed in? Would they ever break free? A sudden burst of blinding light filled the shed, momentarily pushing back the darkness. Lisa shielded her eyes, squinting against the glow. Then, just as quickly, it faded, leaving nothing but an oppressive gloom and the sickly sweet smell of decay. The shadows slithered back, hungry and relentless. Had she even seen a light? Or was it just a cruel trick of the darkness? Mia! Chloe! The desperation in her voice sliced through the quiet, but no answer came. Panic surged inside her like poison. She needed to act. She plunged further into the shed, hands trembling as she searched with frantic urgency. The weight of shadows pressed down, whispering lies into her ear. They promised despair, taunted her with images of what might be happening to her daughters. Let them go, a voice hissed, teasing the edges of her sanity. You can't save them. You're too weak. No. Lisa spat, shaking her head as if she could physically throw the voices off her. She was their mother. She had fought too hard for too long. As she stumbled deeper, her fingertips brushed against something cold and solid, a heavy, rusted toolbox. With all her might, she yanked it open. The contents were old and grimy, tools covered in dust. Simultaneously, a memory sparked. Her father's voice echoed in her mind, teaching her how to use each one. But there, nestled among the tools, was a small silver locket, the one from the glow. She grasped it tightly in her palm, feeling warmth radiate from it, a stark contrast to the chill around her. If this had brought light once before, maybe it could do so again. But first she had to find the girls. They needed her. Lisa turned, charging back toward the door, heart racing. A low growl reverberated behind her, strong like an engine rumbling to life. She paused, the hairs on her neck standing up, sensing the dark force behind her. "Leave us," she ordered, surprising herself with a sudden surge of bravery. "Leave my family alone." The shadows recoiled, hissing as if stung by her defiance. Yet the growling only intensified, a deep rumble echoing all around her, turning the air stifling with dread. It felt as if the very walls were alive, breathing with a sinister rhythm. Each pulse ignited her fear further. She dashed toward the door, locket clutched tightly. As she reached the threshold, gusts of icy wind snaked around her ankles, trying to pull her back. With a fierce scream, she broke free, slamming the door behind her. Breathless, Lisa leaned against the shed. The night air was stifling, thick with uncertainty and fear. She had escaped, but at what cost? She could still hear the eerie whispers wrapping around her. What was the source of the darkness? "Mama, over here." Chloe's frightened voice broke through her thoughts like a thunderclap. Lisa's stomach twisted in both relief and fear. The girls, they were outside. "Mia, Chloe, I'm coming," she cried, tears forming in her eyes as she sprinted toward them. But as she ran, a sense of foreboding surrounded her, the shadows still yanking on her resolve. When she emerged fully into the moonlight, she found them huddled together near the old oak tree, faces pale and eyes wide. But then, Lisa saw the figure hovering behind them, a dark silhouette, featureless but malevolent, grinning with delight at her despair. "Stay behind me," Lisa shouted, locking her gaze on the dark figure. Panic surged, but also conviction. She held the locket aloft, feeling its warmth pulse through her hand. "Leave my daughters alone," she demanded, voice trembling but firm. The figure shimmered but didn't retreat. Instead, it reached out a long, shadowy arm toward the girls, as if trying to pull them into the void, creeping closer. Time halted. Hearts raced. "What do you want?" Lisa shouted, feeling a mix of fear and defiance. Silence answered, thick and suffocating. The dark figure paused, as if weighing her words. Then, without warning, it lunged forward, opening its mouth wide, a maw of darkness and despair. And in that instant, Lisa understood. This was just the beginning. What price would she have to pay to save them? What horrors awaited in the joyless embrace of a persistent shadow? Could the locket truly unearth a path through the choking darkness? Or was it a gateway to something far worse? Lisa felt time twist and stretch, her heartbeat the only sound in the suffocating silence. She thrust the locket toward the dark figure, its silver surface gleaming under the moonlight. "Back off," she screamed, a mix of anger and desperation bubbling to the surface. The shadows recoiled slightly, but that didn't stop the silhouette. It lingered, unfazed, like a malevolent predator sizing up its prey. Lisa's breath came in shallow gasps, the air around her thickening with dread. Behind her, she could feel Mia and Chloe inching closer together, their terror palpable. "Mommy," Chloe whimpered, her small voice cracking. That sound ignited something deep within Lisa, a primal instinct more powerful than any fear. She stepped forward, determination replacing hesitation. "Leave them alone," she shouted, the locket burning in her palm. The creature paused, an almost thoughtful silence spreading between them. Then it began to laugh, a sound that was both terrible and hollow. The laughter unfurled like smoke, wrapping around Lisa, curling into her ears, taunting her with all the things that could go wrong, a world without her daughters. The very air vibrated with its chilling energy. "Mom, please," Mia's voice shattered the moment, bringing Lisa back to the horrific reality. The darkness surged forward again, its arms stretching, tendrils reaching for her girls, the ghastly grin widening with each passing second. With a surge of adrenaline, Lisa snapped the locket open. A soft warm light erupted from it, a beacon against the oppressive blackness. The shadows shrank back, yowling as if burned. The creature hissed, eyes narrowing, its form writhing in discomfort. For a moment, Lisa felt a flicker of hope. Maybe the locket was her salvation. But hope was a fragile thing. The moment of brightness wavered, flickering like a candle in a storm. It won tea last. It crooned, voice echoing with serpentine malice. You have no idea what it takes to truly save them. Lisa gritted her teeth, holding her ground. I'll do whatever it takes. But at what cost? Purred. And in that instant, the world around her shifted again. Images flooded her mind, Chloe alone, crying in a dark room. Mia trapped, screaming for help. Visions of fear that hinted they were not safe even in her arms. No, she shouted, struggling against the onslaught. Get out. Get away from us. But the shadows crept closer, creeping into the corners of her vision, slinking behind the girls, twisting around their small forms. They were encased in darkness, struggling against it as Lisa fought for their freedom. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Terror riddled her heart. Desperation clawed at her throat. Girls, hold on to me, she cried, praying against all odds. As if guided by instinct, Mia took Chloe's hand and moved towards their mother, the three of them a chain against the encroaching blackness. But the grip of shadows was too strong, pulling at Lisa's ankles, dragging her down. Each step toward them felt more and more futile. Let them go. The locket flickered again, its light struggling against the dark tide. But it was losing ground. Lisa could feel the truth closing in around her like a vice. What price would she pay? The shadows whispered promises of despair, but also the glimmering allure of power and knowledge she had never considered. No, I won't choose this, she breathed, her heart sinking, the realization hitting her like a tidal wave. Just as helplessness began to swallow her, she realized they weren't just fighting for survival. This was about something deeper. The dark figure began to dissolve, shadows swirling and flickering like dying embers. But the danger was far from over. Its voice snaked through the air, haunting and cold. You've only just begun to understand the cost. And then the darkness retreated, leaving Lisa standing in a circle of light, her daughter's terrified faces reflecting both relief and uncertainty. But in the distance, a new sound emerged. A whisper, a chant. You're not done yet. A chill ran through Lisa as she turned, the fear clawing at her insides. The shadow may have pulled back, but it had not vanished. It was merely beginning to play its hand. What horrors lay ahead as the game unfolded? The night was far from over. The air felt charged, static weaving through the space as Lisa scanned the trees surrounding them. Her heart pounded wildly, each beat a reminder of their vulnerability. The lingering whispers twisted through the air, dancing at the edges of her sanity. What are they saying? For a moment, she felt as if they were directed at her, sinister threads unraveling the fabric of her courage. Mom? Mia's tentative voice broke through the haze. Lisa turned to see her daughter still clinging to Chloe, both girls wide-eyed, trembling. What's happening? The fear in their voices twisted like a knife in Lisa's gut. She opened her mouth to reassure them, but no words came. The shadows were now pulling back, coiling around themselves, forming shapes that twisted in warped delight. The silhouette that had once been a single entity now seemed to multiply, flickering in and out of view like an imperfect reflection. Lisa felt the locket pulse in her hand. It was still glowing, but the light flickered like it was gasping for breath. Hold on to it, she whispered, forcing her voice steady. Just trust me. The whispers crescendoed, turning into a rising chant that seemed to draw closer, echoing off the surrounding trees, a cacophony of voices vying for attention, begging to be heard. Lisa's thoughts raced. What do they want? She gritted her teeth and pressed the locket tightly, its smooth surface a lifeline against the horror that threatened to engulf them. Then, with a sudden shift, a figure stepped into the light streaming from the locket. This was different, a woman, her features shadowed yet oddly familiar. Help me, she beckoned, her voice a melodious blend of despair and urgency. Who are you? Lisa shouted, fear slicing through her resolve. What do you want? The woman's eyes widened, shimmering with tears. They're coming for you, for the girls. You must listen. Each word echoed like a drumbeat, Another layer of terror building, pressing in on Lisa's mind. Chloe whimpered, her eyes darting to the growing shadows. "Mom, make it stop." Panic now surged through her small body, sending waves of dread crashing into Lisa. The shadows convulsed, snapping like enraged wolves, the talon-like fingers reaching, finding a new hunger. "No!" Lisa screamed, clutching her daughters tighter. "We won't let you. You won't take them." The whispers intensified, morphing into a single, terrifying statement that ricocheted in her ears. "You'll have to give something up." In that moment, realization struck. What would she have to sacrifice? The locket flickered, and the woman's figure shimmered in and out of the light as if caught between dimensions. "The choice is yours," she pressed. But don't wait too long. More shadows coalesced behind the woman, each one curling around her like venomous vipers. Lisa's breath quickened as her mind raced. Was this a trap? Could she truly believe her? Just then, Mia tugged at her sleeve, eyes brimming with tears. "Mom!" The air thickened with tension, a gripping sensation of despair flooding Lisa's chest. The shadows pulsated, anticipation crackling like static around them. She could feel the weight of their intent, hungry, relentless. The woman smiled, but the softness of her expression felt sinister. Choose or lose everything. In a heartbeat, the glowing locket dimmed, and shadows surged forward, ready to obliterate them. Lisa's heart thundered as she stared into the abyss, her soul torn between instinct and reason. "What do I do?" Lisa gasped, her voice lost in the clamor. But answers came not from the woman, but from the shadows themselves, swirling closer, chanting her name. "Lisa, you have to decide." The night held its breath, the tension crackling like dry kindling. What would she be willing to sacrifice? The sinister shadows pressed forward, and the sinister game had only just begun. And deep within that haunting chant, a terrifying truth nestled. No choice could ever be easy when it came to love and survival. What path would she take when darkness finally demanded payment? The ground shook beneath their feet. The ground trembled like a living thing, reverberating with an unholy energy that clutched at Lisa's insides. The shadows writhed and twisted, inching closer, an inky tide determined to sweep them into the void. Each heartbeat echoed a frantic rhythm against the backdrop of whispering wails that seemed to slice through the very fabric of reality. Lisa glanced at her daughters, their faces pale as they absorbed the dread coiling around them, like snakes poised to strike. "We can't stay here," she shouted, desperation blurring her thoughts. She held the locket tightly, its warmth a waning hope in the chilling gloom. "We have to run." Mia clutched Chloe tighter, her small voice trembling. "What if they catch us, Mom?" The sudden shift in the air made Lisa freeze. The shadows paused, their movement like a breath held in anticipation, and then surged forward with renewed vigor. "Run!" she shouted again, and without waiting for a second thought, she turned and grabbed her daughter's hands, pulling them into the depths of the forest. Branches snagged and clawed at them as they plunged into the thicket. The once familiar landscape transformed into a dark maze of whispers. "Don't look back," Lisa urged, heart racing. The locket pulsed faintly, a ghostly beacon leading them deeper into the night. The whispers swirled around, morphing into words that scraped against her mind. "You should have chosen. What do they want?" Mia cried out, her voice strained with panic. Lisa didn't answer, each leg dragging through the tangled underbrush. The rustling leaves whispered terrifying things she dared not repeat. Suddenly, she heard a high-pitched laugh, echoing from the depths of the woods, a sound that sent ice skidding down her spine. "Mom!" Chloe whimpered, terror etched across her face. "Keep moving!" Frantic, Lisa glanced over her shoulder. A dark figure flickered in and out of sight, merging with the shadows, its form somehow more menacing than before. She could feel its hunger, its relentless pursuit. The trees closed in, branches twisting like skeletal fingers, threatening to ensnare them. More shadows began to race alongside them like dark wolves hunting in a pack. Lisa's breath came in ragged bursts. Time felt lost. She didn't know how long they'd been running. All that mattered was escape. Then, a sudden stillness gripped the air. It stopped their frantic pace, an unnatural tranquility settling like a shroud. Confused, Lisa turned cautiously. The shadows had retreated, swirling at a distance but still watching, waiting. "Mom?" Mia's voice was small, trembling. "Are they gone?" The locket flickered violently in Lisa's hand, illuminating faces, sudden glimpses of her own past. Lost moments surged up, fragmented memories of friends, family laughter. It whispered to her, "Something must be given." "I want tea," Lisa started, but her words faltered. The women's plea, the shadowy laughter, the urgency clawing at her heart. It all began to mold into a clear horror. "Not you," she breathed, still fixated on her daughters, shielding them with an instinctive urgency. "Mom, your heart," Chloe shouted, panic rising. "It's hurting." The shadows around them began to pulse, and Lisa found herself overwhelmed by choices, thoughts swirling violently. While shadows tightened their grip again, the sharp bite of fear surged and buzzed against her skin. "No, no," she shouted, feeling the weight of despair building like a storm inside her. "What do you want from me?" Lisa roared into the abyss, demanding clarity. The darkness seemed to nod, spiraling closer, their chant rising guttural, piercing. "Join us." The locket dimmed further, flickering sporadically like a dying star. And for the first time, Lisa felt despair seep through her fingers. It was impossible. She couldn't. It wasn't an option. The choice loomed like a monstrous specter. With one final act of defiance, she turned to the girls. "We want let them take you." The firm resolve within her turned to a tidal wave of protection. As the shadows lunged forward, she felt the ground beneath her quake violently once again, the trees bending to unleash the terror that remained locked in the night. Then she heard it, a deafening roar, far more terrible than the whispers. "You'll sacrifice love, or lose your children," and as the flashes of light danced around them, she realized what would soon be demanded. A chill ran down her spine, and she desperately clutched her daughters as the night quaked around them, ready to unveil the twisted fate awaiting their choice. Would she give in to the darkness, or unleash the monstrous cost of survival? The answer lay moments away, and before her eyes, the shadows coalesced once more, growing sharper, hungrier, demanding something worth more than she could ever imagine. The shadows surged, a wave of darkness that rippled with a sinister intent. Lisa squeezed her daughter's hands tighter, feeling their warmth slip away as dread spilled into her heart. The echoes of that terrible roar still reverberated within her mind, drowning out her thoughts. How could she choose? What would she have to sacrifice for their safety? "Mom," Chloe whimpered, her small voice barely audible over the rising tension of the night. "Stay close," Lisa urged, scanning the perimeter of their shelter in the fading light. Her eyes darted back and forth, searching for any sign of safety, any flicker of hope. The trees loomed tall and menacing, branches reaching out like claws ready to ensnare them if they dared to stray too far. The locket pulsed again, its glow pulsating erratically. It seemed almost sentient in the chilling air, whispering secrets that felt both inviting and cursed. The visions it summoned danced around her mind, a soft touch, a laugh, moments of joy, all turning grotesque and twisted into nightmare images. It was a lifeline, but also a spider's web, pulling her into its despair. "Mom, we can't just stand here," Mia said, her voice trembling with urgency, her eyes wide with fear. Lisa swallowed hard, the shadows shifting closer, eager to strike. "You're right. We have to find a way out." Fear clenched her gut, but she pushed it aside. There was no time for hesitation. They turned toward a narrow path, shadowed by ancient trees draped in crooked limbs. As they moved deeper into the woods, a cacophony of whispers followed, rising like spirits from the earth, intensifying their dread. "She's coming," a voice hissed, sharp and cruel, echoing in her mind. "Who?" Lisa gasped, her heart pounding. She quickened her pace, never looking back. The revelation that they were not alone clawed at her. Suddenly, the ground beneath them lurched again, a violent tremor that nearly sent them sprawling. Lisa regained her stance, but Chloe fell to her knees. "I can't get up," Lisa shouted, panic flooding her voice as she pulled Chloe upright. "We can't stop." She could feel the shadows closing in, their hunger intensified with every moment wasted. They needed to keep moving, to keep fighting. Just as they pushed deeper, the forest opened into a clearing, moonlight spilling through the branches, washing over the ground. For a moment there was silence. The shadows drew back, lingering just at the edges, as if they feared this light. But dread dripped from every branch and leaf, promise of terror still lingering in the air and the stark moonlight. Lisa glanced at her daughters, desperate for reassurance. "What if the light goes away?" Mia whispered, her innocent fears striking a deep chord of terror in Lisa. "It won't. As long as we stay together," she vowed, her voice shaking even as she fought for courage. They needed something to protect them, something bright enough to fend off the darkness. But as Lisa spoke, a dreadful thought slithered through her mind. Chilling her to the bone, was that just a lie to keep them from falling into despair? Suddenly, the locket flared, blinding and brilliant in her hand, casting fleeting shadows across their faces. A ghostly image appeared briefly, showing a woman she didn't recognize, eyes hollow and pleading. The flickering stopped, and the chilling darkness moved in closer, filling the space where the light had been. "Mom, what is happening?" Chloe cried, eyes wide with fear. Then, the figure formed again, clearer this time. It spoke one word, shattering the silence. "Choose." The shadows roared with loss, their hunger palpable. Lisa felt the weight of the decision pressing on her like a suffocating blanket. As the night closed in, the locket dangled, pulling her deeper into its web, and just like that, the whispers crescendoed into a chaotic chorus, demanding her answer. But she had no time. Her breaths quickened, heart raced. Her choice was no longer a distant thought, it was a date with destiny. As the world around her spun, one clear conviction rang in her heart. Whatever happened next, she would never abandon them. And with a flick of her wrist, the locket fell to the ground, shattering into shards of whispering light. "What have I done?" It was then that the shadows erupted, surging forth with unrelenting fury, closing in with an intensity that promised no escape. The final heartbeat of the forest thrummed as the looming strike began. But in the depths of despair, a final revelation lingered, an answer rising in the midst of chaos. What would emerge from the fractured light? Would it reveal salvation, or would it unveil a far more terrible truth? The locket shattered, light exploding like a fiery star through the oppressive darkness. Each shard glimmered with the weight of forgotten memories, illuminating the clearing for a fragmented second. Then silence reigned. Lisa held her breath, heart pounding as the dust settled around them. But the moment of calm didn't last. The shadows recoiled for just that heartbeat, then surged forward, prowling like ravenous beasts, liberated from the confines of their darkness. Their intent was clear. Lisa could feel their icy fingers encroach, and despair tightened its grip on her throat. "Mom!" Chloe cried, the sight of the darkness closing in igniting panic in her voice. "What have you done?" "I don't know," Lisa shouted back, instinctively pulling the girls closer. She could feel the heat of their bodies, their fragile existence igniting in her soul the kind of fire no darkness could extinguish. "We have to move now." Before them, the forest morphed into a hellscape. Trees twisted unnaturally, roots writhing, forming a barrier that clawed at their ankles, dragging them back toward the chaotic mauve shadows. Each breath tasted like copper, thick and rusted with fear. Lisa grasped her daughter's hands, a lifeline in a storm. "Run. Just run," Lisa urged, adrenaline surging through her veins. They fled into the darkness, the weight of her decision hammering in her chest. The frantic whispers followed them like hounds on their heels, hungry and insatiable as they dashed forward. Chloe stumbled and fell, her small hands scraping against the damp earth. "Mia!" she cried, her innocence crushed under an avalanche of terror. "Get up, Chloe, get up," Mia begged, pulling at her sister's arm. Lisa spun around, using her body to shield them from the encroaching darkness. A flash of light shot across the clearing, and the eerie glow of the shattered locket illuminated the landscape just long enough for Lisa to see it, a figure emerging at the edge of the clearing. Cloaked in shadows. It was the same woman from the locket. Cold, colorless eyes drilled into Lisa. The woman lifted a finger, pointing directly at her, and the ground quaked again, a violent tremor that rippled through the forest floor. "Choose!" the woman screamed, her voice echoing against the trees, sharpening into a knife-edged whisper. "You will pay the price." A surge of terror shot through Lisa. She was trapped in a nightmarish dance, the rhythm of which echoed in her bones. The fury of the shadows swirled, claws grasping, pulling her toward the woman. "Mom, what does she want?" Mia cried, clutching Chloe tight. "I don't know," Lisa shouted again, desperate confusion flooding her mind. The shadows drew closer, a swirling mass of discontent. "We need to find the way out." "Mom!" A chilling voice whispered from behind her, a voice not from her daughters, not from the woman. "Mom, you have to choose." Lisa's heart raced. "Choose what?" Her breath hitched as pieces fell into place. The whispers of the shadow creatures floated through the air, voices clashing in a sinister chorus. Was she to sacrifice one of her children for the other? Was that the choice? "No," she shouted, feeling it claw deeper into her skin, pushing against her will. "I want to choose between them." The blackness hesitated. A flicker of uncertainty washed through its ranks, and Lisa felt a spark of hope. Perhaps defiance would split the shadows apart, give them a chance to escape. But beyond her daughter's gasps, the woman's eyes narrowed, deep pools of darkness threatening to swallow them whole. "You must choose," she intoned again, voice dripping malice. With no way out but forward, Lisa felt herself inching closer to the looming figure. Each step felt heavy, as if the earth was conspiring against her resolve. But just when the coldness of the woman's breath brushed against her skin, transforming the air into ice, something trembled beneath the surface of her heart. It pulsed in harmony with the locket shards at her feet, sending a sharp warning straight through her veins. With one last desperate glance at her daughters, Lisa screamed into the void. "No!" It was the only answer she could offer, and the shadows screamed back, a cacophony that enveloped them whole. As she felt the darkness wrap around them, a flash of realization spun in her mind. Perhaps the answer lay not in choosing, but in defiance. But would that decision hold against the abyss? And as the forest whispered those secrets of choice, of sacrifice, their world twisted and fractured once more, plunging them deeper into uncharted terror. What would they confront in the depths of denial? Would defiance protect them, or would it seal their fate? In the depths of that twisting darkness, the air seemed to freeze, suspended in a frantic heartbeat. Lisa's heart raced as shadows surged, clawing at the edges of their fragile world. But deep down, a spark ignited. Defiance was their only weapon against the terror clamoring at the gates of their souls. "Hold tight," she shouted, a surge of determination flooding her resolve. As the shadows writhed closer, a weight settled in her chest. She couldn't choose between her daughters, and she refused to let the darkness dictate terms. "We're not playing your game anymore." A heartbeat shifted within that suffocating void, as the entity pulsed with frustration. The ground trembled, wood and earth groaning in submission. But Lisa felt a sudden steadiness within her. She locked eyes with Mia and Chloe, both of them trembling, yet their courage mirrored her rising strength. "We're stronger together." The whispers became a howling gale, spiraling inward until it filled her ears and rattled her bones. Each scream seemed to claw for a concession, but every fiber of her being screamed back no. They would stand united against the chaos that sought to tear them apart. As the shadows lunged, they coalesced into distorted faces, mournful, angry, pleading. "Your love will be your downfall," they shrieked, venom lacing their words. But Lisa pressed on, the shattered pieces of the locket glimmering like stars at their feet. And in that moment, she remembered a final revelation: love wasn't just a weakness. It was the very light they needed. Not fear, but love, she cried, clutching the girl's hands tighter. "Our love is our strength." At her words, the shimmering shards ignited, growing brighter and brighter, illuminating the chaos swirling around them. The shadows screeched, recoiling from the light. With every heartbeat, that radiance drew strength, reflecting back the horrors threatening to consume them. The specter of the woman loomed closer, anger spilling from her form as the ground quaked more fiercely. "You will pay for this, not if we stand together," Lisa shouted, feeling every fleeting stitch of despair unravel. In one fierce gesture, she thrust the shards forward, channeling the essence of love she felt for her daughter's absolute, unwavering. The light exploded, a brilliant flare that shattered the suffocating darkness, dispersing its forms like ashes in the wind. A shockwave surged through the clearing, knocking the shadows back as they shrieked in anguish. The figures twisted and faded, consumed by the very light the girl's love had birthed. In its wake, a deep stillness settled, surging with hope that tasted like morning dew. "Mama?" Chloe's small voice broke through, a thread of uncertainty. Lisa knelt, pulling them both close, their heartbeats synchronizing in relief. "I'm here. You're safe." The moonlight spilled around them, now restored, free from the lingering menace that clung just moments before. They breathed as one, the warmth of their reunion enveloping them like a protective cocoon. "What about the shadows?" Mia whispered, peering into the darkness beyond the clearing. The question hung heavily in the air, but the fear that once gnawed at Lisa dissipated into wisps of memory. "They thought they could use our love against us, but they underestimated us." She smiled, stroking the girl's hair. "Together we're unstoppable." As dawn broke, casting a golden hue, Lisa led her daughters home through the now familiar forest path, every step lighter than the last. The weight of terror had lifted, giving way to bright possibilities, laughter lingering like summer winds around them. "It's over, right?" Mia ventured, her cautious optimism blooming like wildflowers. "For now," Lisa replied, glancing back at the woods. "But we will always stand together. No matter what comes, we'll face it as a family." The lingering shadows faded the farther they walked from that cursed place, each step resonating with newfound strength. And as the sun rose high, bathing their world in radiant light, Lisa closed her eyes, inhaling the scent of freedom, of love, and just like that, they stepped into a new dawn, armed with hope and the unbreakable bonds of family. The darkness had been confronted, but its lessons would echo forever, a reminder that love, in all its raw and powerful forms, would always conquer despair. As they crossed the threshold of home, laughter spilled forth, filling the house with life, secure in the knowledge that no shadows would ever take them again. Now, what about you? Did you enjoy this spine-tingling conclusion? You need to subscribe now so you don't miss future exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to help us feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what just went down. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything.